between the House and the Senate, we'll see very different things. I think that right now with the Senate, there's a slim majority, slim Democratic majority, and what we have seen in the past 2 years in a slim Democratic majority within the Senate is a lot of work that's gotten done, a lot of pragmatism that has sort of risen to the top. The Honoring Our Pact Act, I mean, the most substantial legislation in terms of ensuring that veterans are getting access to the healthcare that they need, wholly bipartisan and really aggressively pushed within the United States Senate. The CHIPS bill that I mentioned, infrastructure, the list goes on, bipartisan gun violence prevention legislation that was wholly bipartisan in the Senate. I think while there's certainly going to be the bickering and the back and forth, the Senate has demonstrated that they'll kind of lead on some of these issues. In the House, it's a little less clear. There's going to be a slim Republican majority, and there are a lot of voices that have kind of risen to the top that lean towards the combative side. And I say that I'm the most bipartisan member of the Virginia delegation, the 5th most bipartisan member of Congress. The number 4 is now the lieutenant governor in New York, so I've kind of ascended to number 4. But I do think that what's going to matter, and we'll see it probably in the first month or 2, is which voices become the most prominent on the Republican side of the aisle. Because there are a lot of really extraordinary members who worked on all those bills that I just mentioned. My colleagues in the Problem Solvers Caucus who, again, scan the gamut in terms of their ideology, but the practice of how they try to actually govern and push their ideology or the policies that they support, the tactics are very different. And so I think that we'll see in the first month or so some growing pains on the other side of the aisle as to whether or not folks who at the end of the day want to legislate, want to govern, want to represent their communities in of very different policies, whether those voices are the ones that kind of become the most prominent on the other side of the aisle, or whether or not it's a couple a couple louder voices who are far more, I'll generously say, disruptive. And so I think that's going to impact. On the Democratic side of the aisle within the House, we have new leadership. We will have new leadership. We're voting on Wednesday for a new minority leader. Hakeem Jeffries is running unopposed, but he is a fantastic member of Congress. He's been to our district, traveled with me a bit on the campaign trail, and was a state legislator for many years. Very pragmatic, very focused on results, and I think will be a really, really good partner sort of within the House of Representatives, again, assuming that the critical mass of people who want to govern are the ones that, after a little bit of aches and pains on the other side of the aisle, as they're figuring out who's going to be speaker and who's going to be in their leadership roles when it's all said and done. I remain hopeful. I do think that January is probably going to be a messy month in the House, just given the way that the speaker vote happens and what that's going to look like. But I'm the eternal optimist, and